Hey guys, Max here. Let's talk about Pixel 9 Pro Fold. I'm probably gonna mess this name up in this video, but this is the new Fold from Google. And here is the OG Fold from Google. Um, there's some things we're going for this, and then there's some things going for this. For me, it's like a trade-off. Like this, the original one has very nice front display, but it's ugly inner display because of like the display itself is nice, but these bars over here just does not look modern, while the outside definitely stands out and looks a lot more modern. But it kind of switches off over here where it looks, to me, the outer just looks ugly. And the reasons being for it, like for example, you have this extra piece over here, and then like you could see the black bars, and they're not thin bars, they're on the thicker side bars. So it literally feels like they took Pixel 9 and shoved it in the case. This looks like a case for a phone. And like you could see like there's bars, like the black bars over here. So when you look at the front display, there's just a lot going on to display versus like for example where I thought I muted all the sounds. Come on. So versus like for example here where this is Fold 6, this looks more modern, but it's just too narrow. So I guess there's a trade-off. So here this is a lot nicer, more modern versus something here. But then when you open here, now this inner display definitely looks more modern than inner display on this. Now, this is at max display brightness. Okay, let me unlock it. So you could see how this is, for example, so much brighter versus this, but it's still a nice display. The issue is in, let's say, a bright environments like daylight or sitting in a very bright lit room, this is definitely going to be much more viewable versus here where it's not as bright. The nits are definitely brighter on this one, but the crease is definitely still noticeable. There's a lot of paid reviewers out there or who got their products for free, and they'll, like I watch some and they'll claim like, oh, the crease is barely noticeable. Yes, it is noticeable. Same as it's noticeable over here. The difference is this is a very shiny display, and there is some kind of coating on top of this where it's anti-reflective versus it is here where like the lights are much more reflective versus than what it is here. But this is a fingerprint magnet. So you could definitely see the crease, and you actually see the crease when it comes to using a device, like especially when looking at the side. But when, let's say if I'm watching something, you could see crease right there. You could see crease right there. You could see the crease, especially like when it comes to watching something. But when looking directly at this, let's say, like directly at this, like you really have to try in order to see this crease. This is at 4K. Like the crease is noticeable. But I guess we can't really get everything. It is thin, so the expectation is that the crease is going to be there. See, the crease is right there. It's not as bad as like Galaxy Folds years ago. I think on the Z Fold 6 where the crease is there. Is it, which one is worse? Honestly speaking, so there's that. and then there's a crease right there. So as you could see, the Z Fold 6 crease is a little bit thinner, but the display is reflective as much as that one versus, like, for example, here. This is not the video comparing them, but overall the inner display is a win, especially for example, like scrolling through a website, and let me lower the brightness, like looking at things. This inner display is a win versus here, where I think it worked better when holding it this way. Not comparing them. The issue is with this device. What does it really offer? I don't think Google did enough to give us foldability use of this device. Like, for example, in the developer option settings, I could enable freeform, which is right there. And by enabling freeform, I get to have websites that I could use just floating. So this way I could use, like, for example, this at the same time, and then John should have worked. Let's do this way. So let's do this freeform, and then I don't know why it works sometimes where I'm able to use two apps in the floating at the same time, but somehow it's glitching. It literally worked for me only once, but I can use them in a split form factor to use two apps at the same time. But you could see, like, this is Google, and there's an issue, like it's somewhere there. So let's try again. Oh, there we go. So it opened up. I don't like that it's rounded over here. Why isn't it as even as it is here? Like, and then it's rounded over here, and it's noticeable, especially like if I'm moving it this way, like why are they? I get it, the edges of the display itself is rounded, but why are they rounded when I'm using in a split mode? Yeah, so let's look at the flex mode. The flex mode works with YouTube. Yeah, it's great. So if I want to use it like for the flex mode to watch something, but when using, for example, another platform, let me open it. Let me open up the video. Okay. So here's a video format of something else, and then if I vent it, it just stays the same. Nothing changes. So the flex mode only works in certain apps, but not for all. Versus, like, for example, the Z Fold 6. Like, if you want to compare foldable OS, the Fold 6 is just winning it on so many fronts. It has much more customizable operating system, especially for the foldable, where all the videos that I've been watching, all the video formats, like, for example, when I'm watching like whatever I just showed on the Z Fold 6, everything works in flex mode. At the same time, it kind of has that extra other features where I could use multiple applications at the same time. It allows me to use 3 apps at the same time on Z Fold 6. Plus, I could have a floating window. Here, you could do split of 2. Technically, I should be able to use freeform on top of the app, but somehow it worked. It did work. I tried it before. It worked once, but since that one time, it just does not work at all. So what do you really get from this? It's a bigger display. Yeah, it's great for, let's say, scrolling and reading on websites, or like if like messaging, you have a bigger display But again, it's like for one application at the same time. Yes, you could use like split screen. Let's say, let me open up this and split. I don't want freeform, split. Then I could use two of them at the same time. Like for example, if I use two web browsers at the same time. But again, like this is a bigger display. This reminds me of a tablet. It has a nice form factor of a tablet for on the go, but it lacks on the multitasking area. Just the side by side, it's great, yeah, but what else? I want more. The freeform only works on one app, and it's technically, like I said, I tried it before and it did work on two apps, but it only worked for me once. And since then, I've been trying, and I'll show it to you again. So let's say close this one, freeform. It's open, like it's resizable, but then it glitches over here, like you could see. That's it. And then it's stuck there. So if I want to open up a second app, it doesn't work. So again, freeform, it's there. So if I want to increase the size, see now it works. But then I want to open up the second app and it doesn't work. So, and then in the developer settings, it allows you to, come on, it allows you to select where you could, see now it's like, now it works here. Let's see again. Nope. Yeah, there's some issues. Google really needs to go back to the drawing boards and get the foldable OS more tailored to a foldable device, especially like a tablet device. I don't want a large display to do two apps at the same time or one app at a time. I want to take use of this full real estate now that it is 8-inch display. So it's definitely nice. It definitely feels large and it actually a little bit more comfortable. And I'll show it to you. Like typing, look at this. Like it's you need to have large hands in order to be able to type this comfortably. So let's say we go here, apple.com. Like you really, I'm stretching. So it's definitely not as comfortable as, for example, using a Z Fold where it's easier. I don't have to like stretch out in order to be able to comfortably type on it. But it's a trade-off. You get a bigger display, but this bigger display is not using the full display to take advantage of this beautiful large display. I want to be able to use multiple applications at the same time. Also like the PIP, like picture in picture where I'm able to, let's say, to play a movie, something, it doesn't work all the time. It's a hit and miss. So there's a lot of issues as far as the OS, which I think Google can fix that with updates. But so far, it's a hit and miss for me. Beautiful display, bright display. Now, when it comes to speakers, they're okay. They're loud enough, they're bassy enough, but they're not as bassy as, for example, as the Z Fold 6 is, because Z Fold 6 uses Dolby Atmos, so there's definitely a little bit more punch versus here. So let me play a sound for you. Let's open this. See, it's like, now it froze. Oh, now it's closed. Okay, so here we go. You see this on your side, like this is what I'm dealing with. Let's open up sounds. Let's do this one. sound was okay. It's just not as bassy. I would have loved this to be a little bit more bassy. I would have loved it to be a little bit more louder. I think the sound on, like for example, on OnePlus Open, the speakers, because it uses like three. There's three speakers over here. Like you have 1, 2 here, and then you also have one on the bottom here. So one of them is a fake speaker, but this has three speakers in here. Now, when using on Pixel 9 Pro Fold, there's a speaker here, and then there's a speaker right there. So it's using two speakers, which is similar to how it is on Z Fold 6. There's a speaker right there, and then there's a speaker right there. So yeah, it's nice as far as like usability when it comes to using a big display. It's a nice big display, but what do I really win when it comes to using this big display? So like for example, when using, let's open this again. So here it is playing at the full screen, right? Then I have, let me lower the sound on this one. Let me play, same thing. So here is the video, for example. So it's just slightly wider, but then you have the length, which is longer on Excel, and it kind of like works better overall, the real estate of this display versus here. So, and then even turning sideways this way, literally it doesn't take the full real estate. And then you have this extra black bar over here now because of the camera. So I wish, maybe because if it was a little bit wider, so this way I'm able to enjoy video more. But the black bars are definitely noticeable. I don't know what happened here. Here we go again. So, and then if I zoom in, it just looks awkward. So again, I wish Google kind of worked at the same time on the foldable experience than just creating this beautiful inner display. And again, this is a beautiful inner display. The outer display, it's not something that I'm a fan of, but it's definitely much more usable than, for example, Z Fold 6, as far as the comparison with the width. So here we go. You could definitely see that this is 6.3, I believe, and this is 6.3, and you could see that it's a little bit whiter on the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. But then again, this looks a lot more modern, and I think with adjustability, anyone could get used to typing on that display. And again, it does look much more modern. I don't understand. Like you can see the sound is there we go, even though I disabled it earlier. So the typing format, for example, let's see again, Apple. I don't know why I keep going to Apple. It just seems like easier. Okay. So it's usable. I just wish it didn't have all this extra. But then again, all this extra is what gives this extra. So I wish they took this and just maximize it all the way. And where I kind of feel like Google is somehow always behind with their hardware. Just, you have created such a beautiful inner display, why not match the outer display? Like, again, like a trade-off. This has a beautiful outer display, but the inner display is ugly. Like, take outer from here and just match it to the inner from here and just create something out of two into one that actually is functional and it's beautiful to use. So at the end of the day, do I recommend getting Pixel 9 Pro Fold? I think Z Fold 6 is a better buy, just because Samsung customized the OS for Fold 6 so much better. You could run multiple apps at the same time. There's no glitching when it comes to like splitting those screens. At the same time, you could use S Pen with this. You can't use S Pen on this, or like the stylus, it doesn't come with it. And yeah, it is thin. Definitely noticeably it's thinner than, for example, Z Fold 6. I'm just trying to match it. There we go. It's slightly thinner than Z Fold 6. And then the width of the outer display is definitely minus over here because it's narrower than this. But then again, you get like two different experiences on this display versus this. Again, I wish Google worked on this. It just feels like the experience of foldable is the same as the original Pixel Fold. You still get, like, for example, this page is this page right here. And then this whole side becomes a second page, which is right over here. So you don't really get the whole experience of having like two phones with one. It's one, and then this just mirrors whatever the first page is on here. Now the fingerprint scanner is great. The face unlock is not good at all. It only works in bright rooms. It does not work, like for example, if you want to unlock the display with your face in dark environments, it doesn't work. It's a miss all the time. But it's definitely better. I like the fingerprint over here to unlock the phone versus, for example, here. Let me get rid of all this notifications. Like here, you really, because it has a screen protector and because there's a light reflecting on this display, usually it works. But if, let's say, let me close this. Now it's working, of course. Most of the time it's a miss. Most of the time it's not working, but I really have to like press on it. See? Of course, now that I'm recording a video, it works. But most of the time, the fingerprint scanner on this does not work. I really have to like forcefully go into, and the reason why it doesn't work, it's because I have a screen protector in this. Any of the, for example, on Amazon, that's where I bought this screen protector. I bought few variants of a screen protector for this, and all of the 1 stars are the same reviews, that the fingerprint does not work because of the screen protector. But I want to protect the screen. As far as the camera, you know, honestly, if I had to choose, like for example, versus buying this or buying this for the camera, this is the camera in the original Pixel is not a slouch. It really does take good pictures. And then I kind of feel like the results are very similar with the cameras over here, because this cameras don't match this cameras. Those are cameras that's designed like for the fold, so there's obviously going to be loss with this because there's a lot more packed into this display phone itself, because you have the inner display and then you have the outer display. So there's definitely going to be a loss as far as the camera hardware itself. But throughout the years, Pixel has proved over and over and over again that it's not the number of megapixels that delivers beautiful images and it still does the same thing over here where the computation just takes something that would have been crappy on a budget phone, and it just makes it so much better. The computation Pixel has it down packed, whether it is over here or here. The pictures are amazing. I mean, this one takes gorgeous pictures. And honestly, throughout the years, one issue that I had with Pixel devices is the video camera. It just, there was like, I could see the frames. It's not a smooth transition. It's like you could see like the frames as they're moving. So, but with XL, I honestly don't see that issue, and I definitely don't see the issue with this at the same time. It does not match the hardware of the camera, but it is pretty capable camera in the foldable device itself. Now, do I think it's better camera than, for example, a OnePlus Open? It would be a hard fight because I think OnePlus Open definitely puts up a very strong fight. What has going for the Pixel is the computation. Now, the camera on Z Fold 6, it's not a bad camera, but again, the computation has it going for the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. Yep. So to sum it up, it has an okay camera. An outer display is definitely better than on Z Fold 6. I just don't think it's as appealing. I think Google could have done a better job by giving us more modern look, less of this metal appearance over here, less of this bezels going all around the display, and give it more of a modern look similar to, like, for example, the Z Fold 6. It's possible. I don't have anything negative about the bezels, about on the inner display. I kind of felt like I was going to when I originally saw the images of this device itself, but honestly I like it because it gives you space to hold without touching the display itself. The biggest negative with the foldables is displays are pretty fragile, especially like if any of you guys have seen reports that there's cracks in the middle here. It's because people generally, when they close the device, they press on the display here when they close it, and that kind of causes damage over usage, term of usage. But when you have this extra bezels, generally how you're supposed to do it is you're supposed to kind of press on the bezel itself while using your second hand to close it this way to eliminate stress on the inner display, because these foldable displays are not as strong as, for example, as traditional displays on the phones themselves. So I think Google kind of worked around by allowing, for example, certain apps to work in the split screen at the same time to give this whole tablet experience, but it's not compatible with all application, which I wish Google, again, worked with the developers. I don't know, stole some ideas from the Samsung Z Folds and kind of incorporated, because now the hardware is there. The inner display. I'm still not a fan of outer display. The hardware is there. The only thing that's missing is usability of this beautiful large real estate of a display. I don't know if you guys seen this in person or if you see what I see on your side, but let me tell you, this display is beautiful. It's punchy. Like, this inner display is a win. Definitely what Google did, they did it well. The only thing that I would say, if looking at closely, I don't know the longevity of this, if you look over here, like you could see, it feels like this is going all the way here and then it kind of stops here and there's a spacing here. Same thing over here, as if only almost looking at the edge of the display right there. Hopefully there won't be an issue long term. Uh, I honestly did not see a lot of issues with this display. Now, Z Folds, yeah, there was a lot of, especially on Reddit, people complaining with their devices, displays popping off, not popping off, but like cracking in the middle. There were some issues with this one. The problem with OnePlus is the support. A lot of people complained about the support. Like if you have an issue, how do you go about fixing it? Now, Samsung, you can, because Samsung has contracted a lot of partners to work as far as the fixing. But that was the biggest negative with OnePlus Open. Now, with Pixel, it uses Asurion. Originally, I usually don't add insurances to the phones themselves, especially the foldables, because I have too many phones and I don't make any of them as my primary, except like, for example, I had the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and going back years and years, iPhone has been my primary device. But secondary, I always had my Android device. But now, Android is my primary, and thanks to XL, just absolutely amazing phone. If you have an option to have two, I would say a better combination is to use this and this. To use this as the primary, and then on the go to use this as foldable, especially like for traveling purposes, and most probably that's what I'm gonna use. But for something that offers, like for example, a big inner display without much of multitasking, some multitasking, then this is an absolutely amazing display. But if there is only one option and you're trying to make what you want to buy, do you want to buy a foldable? It is much more expensive than this, for example. You're thinking of squeezing as much as you can of whatever the savings that you have and go for foldable because you think it's the best device out there. Unfortunately, I would have to say this one. This device absolutely got me surprised. And over the years, the secondary display device for me was always a Samsung, just because I love how much more customizable Samsung devices are. I hate that it uses two different app stores, like the Play Store and then the Galaxy Store, whatever it's called. That annoys me. And then I also hated that they use their own messaging app versus, like, for example, to use the Google messaging app, although that's changing now, where Samsung is kind of making all their users to use Google messaging. I think it's the move in the right direction. But Pixel, I've tried Pixels over the years, and none of them were my favorite. Actually, I was very against the use of Pixels. It just made no sense. It didn't add so much customizability as the Samsung does. Usually kind of lean into getting third-party launcher in order to get what I wanted. So in the long run, it just was more of a hassle than just enjoying to use device. But this year, Google really outdone themselves with the Pro models. Absolutely. Now, the speakers aren't as great, like for example, as the iPhone is, but they're good enough. The display itself is absolutely gorgeous. Like if you're choosing to get one only device from this year's Google release, this one I think is the winner in my opinion. I think this phone is the best at this point out of all the phones. And I'm talking about the phones that are available in US. And for me to say that, especially how I was kind of disliking Pixel for years, and now it's my primary device. I switched from an iPhone to a Pixel device because the Pixel XL is just that good. Yes, the face scanner doesn't really well, the face unlock ID doesn't work nowhere as near as what Apple does. The fingerprint scanner is not as good as, for example, as some of the other devices, like the Samsung, for example. This doesn't work so well with the screen protector. Even though right now it works well because there's a direct light going on the display itself, but in the dark, somehow it does not open. It just does not. But now it's like, it works well. But I gotta tell you, like, again, in the light, works about 80% of the time. In the dark, I literally get like 3 tries before it finally unlocks, and you really have to like press on it hard in order to register, just because there's a screen protector on it. Remove the screen protector, absolutely flawless. The Face ID unlock, again, only works in if there's light around. Even like when trying to register Face ID on this one, if the room is not lit enough, it's going to show that it needs more light. So overall, if you have to choose one, XL is the one to go for. If you have too much money to blow, you could get this one. But if you're looking one foldable and one primary device in the Android world, these are the best combinations in my opinion. I think Samsung just done it so much more within the foldable world because there's so much customizing going on in this. You don't need to put any third-party launcher. Everything could be done with one UI. It's just, again, the outer display, sure, if Samsung made this display wider, there would be no competition in the foldable world as far as what's available in US. I'm not talking about any Vivo or Huawei, whatever you pronounce that. The Oppo phones, which the Oppo is very similar to OnePlus Open is because they're in a partnership. So overall, this is very hard to turn away from, just because Samsung does it so much more with their foldable. And at the same time, you could use S Pen on it. Yeah, this is the foldable that I think it's the primary one to use as a foldable. This has a screen protector on it and there's no issues with it. But this, it's just a nice phone that's here. Don't like how this looks. And then this just becomes a bigger phone. That's basically it. Again, the multitasking needs work. If Google goes back to drawing boards and starts working with the developers or has their own software engineers going into it, I think this is just begging for more of a tablet type of experience, like especially if it had something like Dex on it. It would just work so much better because it's so much bigger now. You can use multiple apps. Unfortunately, the only thing you can do is use 2 apps at a time. Using Freeform, like I showed, it doesn't always work. Just to sum it up, the speakers are okay. If I have to rate them, for example, from 0 to 10, I'll give them a 7. This is definitely a 10 on 10 out of 10 on OnePlus Open, just because it has 3 speakers. But this would be 9 out of 10 with the speakers in Z Fold 6. As far as the inner display, yeah, once you hold it in your hand and you open that inner display, it's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. I just wish you could do more with this display, because at this point it's just a tablet that's able to do minimal things, mostly designed for like Google's own applications. Very little support for third-party applications. So yeah, like if I'm gonna go, for example, and I want to read news, I'll open something like this and I'll just go through it and just read things like that. Like for example, open something like that. So overall, it looks nice. Let me see if I could open up Instagram. Let's see. Okay, good thing I looked at it first, because definitely would have been inappropriate. So like, for example, it kind of gives off like a tablet experience. Finally, Instagram that, for example, looks normal as far as not everything looks overly zoomed in, and I could actually see a whole picture properly. Now, as far as like, for example, using a Facebook, all of a sudden it's just asking for all this. So let's see, here's an ad. Again, this is like not fully the same as experience, like for example, as Instagram. Like you don't get the whole image, like you have to scroll in order to get the whole image. So definitely I wish Google went back and did some more of designing on the OS itself. All right. Yeah, that's basically it. Kind of resembles like the way it looks here, like you could see rounded here, rounded here. That's how it kind of looks over here when doing split screen. But it's nice that I'm able to do split screen. Let's say we're gonna do this one again. So it's just like you can see those rounded. Small, I guess it's a small thing. Some people get used to it, but I just wish it kind of matched the bottom. I know I rambled a lot in this video, but this is the new hot product on the market at this point as a new foldable in the game, even though Fold 6 was literally released not long ago, and OnePlus Open was released almost a year ago. And honestly, if I had to choose one foldable, I would literally have to battle between this one or this one, and this would be my third option. But don't sleep on the XL, or I haven't tried regular fold. I haven't tried it, but like this took me out of iPhone, and I've been in with an iPhone for years, and I haven't missed, like I've had this as my primary since the release day, and I haven't missed an iPhone even once. So thanks for watching. I'll try to do videos comparing them side by side. Like for example, using this versus this and this, which is, you have Pixel 9 Pro Fold, Z Fold 6, and then Open, OnePlus Open. Come on, Google, do something with the naming. Now, I use this as a trade-in for this. And honestly, I have to say, Google, you got to do better with the trade offers. This was a joke this year. At least Samsung does much better with trade offers. I mean, OnePlus Open, pretty much very similar. But if you wanted to get bigger, like bang for your buck, Samsung definitely is a winner on that spectrum. Unless you're with T-Mobile like I am, and then you could get this for free with trade-ins depending on which plans you have. All right, again, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, any comments, please post below.